Welcome, everybody, to another awesome episode of Fantasy Football Weekly here on Fantasy and Frames. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. With me this week, we got Stacy Perez ready to drop some knowledge about her time in the Pros versus Joes event, the draft from this past weekend. We got John McGlynn here. We got Keith Fleming on the way. Who knows who else we will have joining. Stacy, I'm looking forward, and I think everybody out there is looking forward to hearing just more about the event and your thought process. And let's just hit the music and get right to it. So for everybody who's not aware out there in internet land, Stacy Perez is awesome. And
I'll Venmo you later, Lauren.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I went to Happy today. I spent a little bit more than I was planning to, so I could definitely use extra. But Stacy, how are you doing tonight?
I am great, Jorge. I had a great day. My day started at the absolute crack of dawn. I got to go to Bucks training camp this morning. I was there before 7 o'clock. It was the 11th person in line. Today, got to hang out down there, just watch the guys come out and practice. Like, going so long without football, they could have come out and just played hopscotch on the field, and I would have been happy just to see football players doing something. But I had the best time. Got to see some players that I was particularly looking for, and it was just nice to be around people that enjoy football.
100%. Totally makes sense there. John McGlynn, how are you doing, sir?
Great. I worked 7. I didn't quite have this awesome day that Stacy had. I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. this morning, slept for about 4 hours, and I had to replace the igniter on my stove because it went bad. So I went to the store, picked up the part. Me and my daughter, I showed her how to do it, so she knows how to do it when she gets older, a little bit older in life, how to fix stuff around the house. So I did that for a couple hours. I got work in about an hour, so I got the show going in right now. I can squeeze it in. So I'm happy to be here, but I got about 3 hours sleep last night. So I might not be a fully functioning brain, but I'll do the best I can.
Brutal.
Let's bring in here. We got Sean here in the Facebook chat. Appreciate all you guys do. Thank you very much. No, Keith will be here. Don't worry. He just finished seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, which I'm extremely jealous of. No spoilers. But let's just say he was very happy about the movie. We got to hear on YouTube. Shimi, how's it going? Happy Thursday to you as well. Thanks for tuning in. My day consisted of filling a tank, a big metal, tank of liquid nitrogen, trying to hook it up to all of our machines, realizing that the connectors were stripped, and no matter how much thread tape I had, somebody jacked up our tank, and so having to explain to the department chair, hey, we have a situation. And that was fun. So needless to say, I needed the happy hour I went to after work, which that was totally lovely. Got to give it up to the restaurant chain Hawkers. For anybody who's ever been to there, they have chains all over the country. Highly recommend. We got Albert in the chat. Hello, everyone. Hello to you, Albert. How are you? Great to see you as always. Stacy, I'm excited to hear about this because the moment you started talking about the Pros versus Joes event, I've never seen you be more excited about anything fantasy related before, which is saying a lot considering how much you do in the fantasy space. So maybe if you can give the listeners and viewers just an idea of like what it is and what, just all that it meant to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the FFPC and Fantasy Mojo put on every year for, I think this is the 16th year, a tournament. It's called Pros versus Joes, and it is a best ball tournament. This year there are 7 different divisions of 12 teams, so whatever that number ends up being, half are pros, industry pros, and half are Joes. When you say Joes, we're not just talking about, like your average Joe casual fantasy player. Okay, no. These guys are just as much sharks as any of the pros that are in this tournament, probably even more so in some regards, because, these are guys that play in the FFPC almost on like a full-time basis. And to get in, to be qualified as a Joe, you go into a lottery system you've got to be entered, already signed up for the FFPC main event contest that takes place online, but also live in Vegas the week right after Labor Day. And to get into that event, those, a seat at those tables is around $2,000. So you're looking at really high stakes tournament. It's $1 million grand prize. These guys are spending a lot of money to play in this event, and a lot of them do it every single year, and they can do it every single year because they win a lot of money every year. So like I said, just because you've got guys that are, called, Joes, don't let that, fool you at all. So I started playing in high stakes about 4 years ago. This is my 5th year in the high stakes world. And ever since I learned about this tournament, it was my goal. I was like, I want to do that one day. I want to get picked. And I was always just kind of hoping just to get picked maybe eventually as a Joe. And, they reached out this year and said, hey, do you want to be, a pro on here? We'd like to have you. And I was super, super excited. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So just, so happy to be able to join into this, at least, until I saw the guys that I was drafting against. And then I thought, holy shit, there are some like heavy hitters in my draft, and just even, the rest of them as well. But mine was the first to go off last Sunday. There's, like I said, there's 6 that are going to be live streamed. They're doing it live. There's 1 slow draft this year. So the pros that were in my particular division, the Seltzer division, is going to be Matt Shaw from Draft Sharks, Pete Overzet. I think you guys have heard of him before, right? We got Theo Greminger, player profiler. We have got Stigman Bloom from Football Guys and Todd Burrows from Sharp Football Analysis. So, I saw that and I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? But like I said, I was just so excited and honored to be asked to do it this year. I couldn't even believe it. So just thrilled to be a part of it.
Folks, she's not lying. Like literally, it's like a random day that I wasn't expecting. Stacy calls and I pick up the phone and like, when they say the speakers go to 11, referring to how loudly somebody could be talking. Well, it was like to 21. Like that's how loud, how excited she was to be selected for this. So this sounds completely awesome. You mentioned you had some really good competition here, whether they're fellow pros or Joes in this draft here. And so I want to just kind of pick your brain as far as like, like you said, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing high stakes for a long time. You know what the hell you're doing. If you could give me an idea or give the listeners and viewers an idea of like maybe some of like the scoring settings or some of like the roster builds you have to make in terms of like the spots you have to fill and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 20-man roster. In the FFPC, they do 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, a tight end, and then 2 flex. We also had to get a not in this particular one. A lot of them they do a kicker and a defense, but this was best ball, so we're not doing that. Here is a slim format. But the nice thing too about FFPC scoring is that it's tight end premium also. So you're going to put a premium on those tight ends. It's a full point PPR. So you're getting 1.5 for those tight end receptions as well. So your tight ends, your elite guys are going very early. And I know we've talked about it on our show, the draft show before, but Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, he does all of the ADP for the FFPC and does a lot of other really cool things. If you play in that tournament or any of their contests really. And so, you go look at the ADP on his site and you'll see, Sam Laporta going in the first round, Travis Kelce going in the first round. That is not uncommon at all to see that kind of thing. So that was kind of something I was thinking about, like when I found out I was drafting out at the 8 spot, I was like, okay, what are some different builds that I can do? What is that going to look like for me? Who's going to fall to me at that point? And just try to play around with a few different, scenarios.
All right. Well, let's put the draft board on the screen here for people to take a look at. Let's zoom in a little bit for you. So you said you're coming out of the 8th spot here. I am surprised, knowing how much of a fan you are, that you went with one Lion who's not Sam Laporta, but instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. How conflicted were you? Because we all know, Stacy, you are like Sam Laporta's #1 fan out there. Like, what made you go with Amon-Ra versus Laporta in this situation?
So I'm going to say this because Keith is not here, because I know Keith always likes to be the Debbie Downer to my Sam Laporta love. But Amon-Ra fell to me. And when I was waiting for Team 7 to make their pick, I was like, please let him take Justin Jefferson. I don't want to be conflicted. Do I take Jefferson? Do I take Laporta? What do I do? Do I take AJ Brown? And he took JJ. And I thought, okay, well, I have to take, Sun God here in this spot. I was really hoping Laporta might fall to me. I didn't think that he would, not in this room particularly. But, I do love Sam Laporta. I feel like 8 might be a little too early for him. If I was, Team 11, especially Team 12 does take him at the end of the 12, I wouldn't really have any issue with that. And again, because Keith isn't here, I'm going to say this. Do I think that there is room for some regression for Sam Laporta? Yeah, probably so. I mean, he had a historic rookie year, right? Especially at his position. So, what is the likeliest thing to happen, right? Probably that he does get a little bit, less touchdowns, next year. But even that being said, I'm not necessarily sure that it would knock him down enough for me to, take any of these other guys ahead of him if I had the opportunity.
So looking at the draft, like you were mentioning Todd Burrows with sharp analysis, Laporta, McBride back to back. Then Sigmund Bloom went Travis Kelce. 2 rounds later, he went George Kittle. And then you went back-to-back tight end with Dalton Kincaid and Evan Ingram. John, let's go to you here for a second. In a tight end premium situation, are you looking to really double tap or have your next 2 to 3 draft picks early on in your draft be tight ends because of that premium advantage?
Is it a 0.5 or a 0.75 or a full point premium?
It's a 0.5. Yeah, 0.5.
Okay. So I like Kincaid's on an offense where he has the option to be the number 1 receiver on the Bills. So I honestly think that to pass up Laporta and get Kincaid in round 2 was a smart move by you because they're probably going to be the same. At the end of the year, they're probably going to be the same tier. And for you to get St. Brown and Kincaid, again, you got Chase, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, those guys, they're all in tier 1. You got to wait for, probably the best of the tight ends that are in the same tier. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots later, you got Kincaid. And then you came around, which I think Evan Ingram's going to have a little bit of a regression himself because he had a historic year last year. But to get another guy in a tight end premium, that's probably going to get over probably another 100 targets again. I mean, how do you pass that up? I think you did a fantastic job to start off. And then Devonta Smith, everybody knows me that Devonta Smith's my favorite player in the league. So to get him in the 4th round, I probably would have took him in round 2 because I'm an idiot and he's my favorite guy. But Devonta Smith is just so underrated. I love the way you started this out. And then Mixon being the guy, the main running back who's probably going to get a workload on this team. Your start here is fantastic. I love it.
I couldn't believe that was kind of falling to me. And would I have necessarily started with Kincaid there? I was really kind of hoping that either McBride or Kelce might fall to me there. But when Kincaid did, I was happy to take him because I'm super high on Kincaid as well. I think he does have potential to be that number 1 guy in the Buffalo offense easily. And, you could argue about Marvin Harrison, there too, a couple, spots down, or Puka. Well, Puka was gone, but, any of those guys too. But I wanted to kind of, push receiver a little bit because Todd had already started that there at 12, and then Sigmund taking Kelce. So just kind of pushing that value down a little bit too. And then I also wanted to set myself apart, a little bit from these guys. It's such sharp drafters in this room. I want to do what I can do to make my team a little bit different. And I've just been really, really on bully tight end this year. If you guys saw my Scott Fishbowl draft, that was, whatever color the tight end was in that one, it was just straight, orange, I think. But that's kind of, I felt really good about drafting like that. I really liked the teams that I put together that way. Where they've fallen, where it's made sense. And I think you're probably right with Ingram. He'd had 143, I think, targets. I looked this up the other day. That's the only reason why I know that
147,000.
Yeah, exactly. Targets last year. Obviously top tight end in targets. So yeah, likely to go down, probably so, but enough to make it, a bad choice there. I don't think so. And honestly, if it had been swapped with Ingram and Pitts, if Pitts had come down, I think I would have taken him as well. There, I think those guys to me kind of signify the end a little bit of those, elite tight ends there. You could maybe put Kittle up in there. I'm a big Ferguson fan this year, but for those top few guys, I think it kind of ends there with Ingram.
I agree with that. I think you had, a handful of people went just before you. I think Travis Etienne was someone I'd be eyeballing, Jalen Waddle. But after that, I like Debo. I like Cooper Kupp, Ayuk. But with the premium, Ingram has just as many opportunities to have as many receptions as all those guys that are, Malik Neighbors is projected to have. He's supposed to be the number one receiver on the Giants offense with a bad quarterback. Yeah. He may have the same receptions as Evan Ingram, but with a premium there, you're looking at if he's got 100 targets, he's getting 150 points from just catching the ball compared to 100 by the rest of these guys that you got after him. So I love that start.
Thank you.
Let's go over your next three picks here. We got Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, and then you went Rome Odunze for the Chicago Bears rookie. We'll get to Odunze in a second, but I really am a fan of the Godwin pick here because there's talk about him moving back into the slot where he found a lot of fantasy success over the years. So I thought that was definitely a solid pickup there. Let me do this really quickly. So it's this way. And then
it should have it. The arrows should be on the side over there where you see the numbers on the rounds.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. That helps a lot more. So, you have Godwin here. You have Keenan Allen. What is he the one? Is he the two for Chicago? We don't know. Right? Anybody who says that they know, we don't know. Calvin Ridley, then you go Rashee Rice. Is that going to be? Is he going to be impacted by suspension? I don't know. Concerns there. Ladd McConkey. I don't know. He's a rookie. Like there's so many unknown variables here. Jaden Reed, you do know what you saw last year. Christian Watson, if healthy, is a good wide receiver. But I trust Godwin versus all those receivers I just rattled off. And then you get the DeAndre Hopkins, who theoretically this Bengals offense should be very pass heavy, given the fact that they got the former offensive coordinator for the Bengals as their new head coach. They're really trusting Will Levis to do a lot here. Is that kind of where your thought process was with DeAndre Hopkins?
It was. Out of this group here, I would have taken probably any of these guys I did have, in my queue as potential guys for me to go. At this point, I was definitely hammering wide receiver, trying to get that depth there, at the position before it kind of dropped off a little bit. So with Godwin, I'm looking at, we got 3 years of 1,000 yards. So I don't really see that stopping, this year. With Hopkins, right, he's a little bit older, but he's so elite that until he falls off, I'm going to still take him and trust him, especially to be, the one there in that offense with even if it was with Will Levis, that's fine. They're not going to be fun games to watch probably in Tennessee, but I don't need to watch it to get the fantasy points. Real quick, shout out to Ann and Wendy over in the chat over there. Hello, ladies. Nice to see you. Thanks for hanging out. And then with one of my favorite rookies, just personality and talent wise, like from this year's class, Rome Odunze here. I took him as my 5th receiver overall. Likely he's going to be a bye-week fill-in guy. He's probably not somebody who's starting unless something crazy happens, like an injury to Keenan Allen, right? If one of his hamstrings like completely dissolves, maybe Rome gets a little bit more, action, or, there's an injury to DJ Moore or something crazy like that, right? I think I'm buying the hype that it's going to be more of a JSN type season for him, at least at first. And maybe he'll, kind of get comfortable in the league, get connected with Caleb Williams, and kind of start to flash a little bit towards the end of the season, which is why I took him there in the 8th round as my 5th wide receiver. So I felt comfortable in that because I had so many other guys, talented guys at that position already. I like drafting him for that particular reason. If you're taking him to be your wide receiver 1 or even a starter for most of the season, I think that's probably a mistake. Maybe next year, right? But this year, I'm stashing him for later. He's a late round stash for me.
One of the, I forget where I heard this from, but one of the concerns that people have for Odunze and these 3 wide receivers here for the Chicago Bears is, you have the new play caller and Shane Waldron coming over from Seattle. Mm-hmm. And people are saying, well, you had DK Metcalf as the guy. You had Tyler Lockett, who was okay, but JSN didn't really have that year as that 3rd rookie wide receiver. So do they emphasize the running game? Let's not forget JSN broke his hand in the preseason. That's why you didn't see a lot of run out of him, no pun intended. to start the season, but as the season went on, you saw them focusing on him a little bit more. Now you have 3 talented wide receivers for a rookie quarterback. And look, this is what we said all offseason. Like, no rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL that I can remember has walked into a better situation with having offensive weapons around him. Like, why wouldn't they showcase everybody there? John, you're outside Chicago. You're a Bears fan. What are your thoughts on Roma Dunze?
Oh, Bears. So I think that they're going to phase out Keenan Allen towards the end of the season, and Roma Dunze will be the number 2 receiver. Even if Keenan Allen's doing great, I think that obviously they have a 5-year window with a new quarterback and a new wide receiver to just kind of, this is breaking the ice year. He's going to learn from DJ Moore and from Keenan Allen, and I think this is towards the end of the season. You're going to see him being one of the mainstays of this offense. He's just too good to kind of keep down. I think he's better than JSN as a third receiver in this offense, and I love that pick here, especially because look around, like after your Hopkins pick, Zamir White, David Montgomery, those are both good guys, but they're just touchdown dependent backs as far as I'm concerned. They have receiving backs in both those backfields. JSN is the third or fourth option, probably the third option in that offense, and then Kyler Murray to take. People are going to start taking quarterbacks at that point, so that's fine. Take Kyler Murray. You got 4 rounds later, and you got Jared Goff, who's probably going to score 20 less points, and then Jalen Warren is a kind of a fan favorite. Xavier Worthy went after that, which he's on. I think the only really elite options on the Chiefs offense is the quarterback and the wide and the tight end. So Mostert is somebody they're going to phase out. They're all about speed there. There's no way Mostert's going to have 20 touchdowns again this year. It's impossible. Jordan Love, I think in a one quarterback situation, taking quarterbacks over here when there's so much talent left on the board, I'm super happy about that Roma Dunze pick. For where you're at in this situation, I'm really not sure why quarterbacks are going so early and so fast here. I like that you waited and just kept piling on talent on your roster.
I was holding my breath with the quarterback situation because I knew that I wanted Goff. I was definitely targeting Goff. I had a few other options there, right? I tell you what, had Hurts come back to me in that 5th round there after I took Smith, I would have smashed that on Hurts. I was not sure he was coming back. Obviously he didn't. But I had a lot of different options to play with there, right? So I've got Goff to go. I could have taken Lawrence to go with Ingram. Could have taken Baker, which is what I ultimately did to go with Godwin, gone and gotten Will Levis to go with Hopkins, Caleb Williams potentially to get with it. So I had a lot of later round QB options available with taking those receivers. So I had a few things kind of listed out and how I wanted to play it. But man, when Trevor Lawrence went, I was so hoping because I was thinking, I was like, oh man, this guy, what if he takes Jared Goff here? What if, like something like that? That would just be my luck, And then he took Lawrence. And so I was like, oh, smash Goff. Let's get that locked down. And then I could not worry about it anymore.
To get Lawrence and Goff at round, I mean, I'm not a one quarterback. I played the 2 quarterback leagues my entire life. Then Superflex came around, and quarterbacks weren't as like highly weighted. It's like you could breathe a little bit from losing one quarterback in a Superflex league. You can have a good roster. But I like Lawrence more than Goff. But in reality, if you were to shake these guys up and put them on a Yahtzee board and throw them out, they're all pretty much within 30 points of each other. So what's the difference if you're getting Tua or Trevor? If me and JT were on this board, Trevor Lawrence probably would have won a round ago just because both of us are madly in love with JT and his hair and his everything. But, for you to wait and get Goff at this point in time and get, Brian Robinson is a very underrated running back for the round before that. I mean, you're killing it in this whole draft.
Thank you. I was so happy, like, honestly, and like drafting, like I said, in a room like this, I was really I definitely got sniped a few times, and towards the later rounds, I can definitely show you where I was getting sniped all over the place. Because like a lot of times what you'll see when you draft in tournaments with other like professionals that do this, like we all have the same kind of ideas. Like we're all, like talking about the same stuff constantly. So a lot, you're all on a lot of the same guys. So that definitely like shows itself in those later rounds here.
Love this. We got a comment here from Ann in the chat. I'm pumped about the Bears this season. Should be fun to watch. DJ Moore is going to eat. And I think you just made a new friend with John McGlynn here because he will probably second everything you just said there.
I love DJ Moore and I love the Bears offense, but I think it's going to be more of just a quarterback learning the system, getting to know his wide receivers and getting to know the system itself. I'm not sure there's going to be one, type A I don't think DJ Moore or Keenan Allen or Rome Odunze, for that matter, are going to any one of them's going to be a bright star in this offense. I think they're going to be pretty close in range here. I don't think DJ Moore is going to steal the show. I think he's kind of a lifetime, like he's a great wide receiver too. For he's a great Robin to somebody's Batman, but I don't think he's a great Batman. I think having these guys around him, he's going to do better. But I think the high water raises all ships kind of thing like that. So that's kind of where I see DJ Moore at here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those like really ambiguous wide receiver rooms that are kind of floating around out there. It's like with them, with Houston, Seattle, I feel like all those guys have like, they've got your vet, they've got like your newcomer, and then they've got like the rookie or second year player that, like nobody's really sure of, yet. But I like what you said too, John, about Keenan Allen, kind of maybe phasing him out towards the end of the season. Isn't he just on that 1 year contract, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot of money the Bears absorb to get him on the deal. But at the same time, Odunze he's a good route runner that's bigger, stronger, and faster than Keenan Allen. So if he can learn a couple tricks from Keenan Allen as the time goes on, and nobody's hoping for any kind of injury from Keenan Allen, obviously, but Keenan Allen has had a couple injury concerns, and he's an older guy, but he's such a technician that when things go wrong with Keenan Allen, he doesn't really play well through injuries, that kind of thing. So I just feel like that Odunze is going to steal the show at some point in time towards the end of the season. Either way, he's going to be in that offense producing no matter what. He's going to get his. That's the thing here.
Although, what, though, a couple of weeks ago, I pulled a hamstring and it made me think of Keenan Allen. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm over here barely able to walk with this, like, straight hamstring. No wonder Keenan Allen was out for 9 weeks with his.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. We need to stop that craziness and welcome Keith Fleming onto the show. Keith, you'll be very happy to hear that we've already gotten the Sam Laporta talk out of the way.
Thank God.
Okay. Exactly.
That's Keith's favorite player. Keith, I'm going to get you a Sam Laporta jersey.
I don't. It's not I don't dislike Sam Laporta. It's just it's gotten crazy with his ADP and where he's going. When I think more than likely we're going to see a slight regression if Jameson Williams is as involved as I think he's going to be, and with what we saw from Jamar Gibbs down the stretch last year. And also, I always worry about Jared Goff. Like I always do. He's been incredible. I like the fact the C came back, but he's Jared Goff. So I can't ever be all in on him because we've already seen this from him where everybody's anointing him of, wow, he's great. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he sucks again. So but I mean, the value you got him in this, I love it. I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Was this a live draft or online?
No, this was live. Oh no, it was online.
Okay.
It was online.
Burrow,
Yeah.
was that a auto pick?
Wait, tell me what again?
The Joe Burrow is the only one, and I'm sorry, this is the OCD in me coming out. He has like a printer. Yeah, like what is that? Is that an auto pick?
It is. That little star does mean auto pick. So I don't know if that guy was like if Burrow was in his queue or not when he did that, or if he just took if Burrow that's where he was going. I'm not sure on that. Joe Burrow, who looks like Eminem right now.
That's okay.
Yeah.
He can pull it off. And the other guy, just real quickly, that I'm shocked to see is I don't understand why Stroud is going so early when, I mean, I'm not saying he's not great. He had the best rookie season I've ever seen from my time of watching the NFL, which unfortunately now is a long time because I'm getting old. But, I mean, QB6, like he doesn't run.
Yeah.
And your ceiling is so low. And so now he's battling with the Burrows, the Dak, the Brock Purdy's, the Tuas, the Goffs, Lawrence, all those guys, to where at least like Jordan Love runs a little bit. Kyler Murray runs a lot. Lamar, Richardson, Allen, like Hurts, all run a lot. Stroud's kind of in that same boat, at least in my opinion. It's the same thing as Laporta, where great player, but it feels like everybody's hyped him up to where their value, to me, like it's hard to live up to that. Looking at, the situation there in Laporta, it's the amount of targets he's going to get. And again, for, God, what would Stroud have to do? He was like QB9 last year and he was, almost perfect. So I just, what was it? Purdy was QB6, was top 5 in passing yards and touchdowns. And I mean, that to me is the ceiling for a guy like Stroud, unless he's going to all of a sudden start running.
So,
Yeah,
and
look at
that
Trevor
to me
Lawrence.
was,
Trevor Lawrence had like 65 rushes last year, and that's Stroud had what like half of that maybe. Like I don't. That's a situation where you got Trevor Lawrence Trevor Lawrence went 5 rounds later, and they're going to have pretty much the same amount of points. That's what I was kind of baffled by that also.
I do like here, we are talking best ball. I do like the fact that you did get Goff and you have the Amon-Ra Goff stack.
Oh, that's great.
Then as we go down, you are, I think at this point, and Stacy, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here. At this point, this is where, upside kind of came into your thought process, probably a little bit like, let's get these guys who could go off, any given week for best ball and really, perform well for you. Is that kind of where your thought process is there?
It definitely was. And this is kind of that like round like 9 through like 12, 13, like that's where my favorite rounds to go grab some running backs, right? Because I typically, you guys know high draft, I don't like to get running backs super early. And then I got Mixon in the 5th, and I was like, great, now I'm done for a little bit. So going after Brian Robinson there, Marshawn Lloyd, who I'm super, super high on this year, Rico Dowdle there. I love taking Rico. They didn't do a lot other than bringing Zeke. So it's going to be him and Zeke, those two guys. And Zeke's probably going to get those touchdowns, right? But you got to get down the field too. So, and you get points for that. So I like Rico there. So yeah, those are, kind of, was that round 9 through 12? Yeah, just kind of filling in, getting some more depth at running back.
Your backs are my favorite part of your draft by a mile, because you spent very little value, in my opinion. You have Mixon, who I've been on record for a few weeks saying his current like ADP to me is the most underrated running back basically this season, because he's so durable, which is something people forget. Like, he continues to play a lot of games, play a lot of snaps. He gets a ton of touches. He's obviously in a very good offense that we've talked about. The Texans had issues in the red zone last year, something that Mixon has excelled at for most of his career. And then those next 3 backs, man, like Brian Robinson, I'm just in. Like, I am. I know people are concerned, I guess, with the, Eckler deal, but I just, from what I saw from Brian Robinson, who, Jorge, correct me if I'm wrong, he got shot right before the beginning of the season and still balled. So I feel pretty good year 2 off of getting shot. He's probably going to be a little bit better. And then Dowdle and Lloyd, like Dowdle to me is going to get an opportunity, period. And we know Zeke is old, and I think Dowdle's going to basically be in the Tony Pollard role, which I know people were disappointed last year. It was still pretty good, and it was even good the year before with Zeke. And then with Marshawn Lloyd, the more that, Kevin Tompkins has talked about the Jacobs contract situation and the history of the way the Packers will, they're not afraid to change running backs or, go with the hot hand. It would not surprise me at all if by week 5, week 6, he's getting, 45, 50% of the snaps. And it's a deal whereby halfway or, the most important stretch of the season, he's their top back. And then that's a bonus. You got Khalil Herbert and Dante Foreman, who are just guys that I believe in. Like, I still think Khalil Herbert is the best running back on the Chicago Bears team. I'm going to continue to say that. And Dante Foreman just excels everywhere he goes. So I love this running back group. And I like the way that you did it without really spending any value.
No, I mean, like, do we not go on the waiver wire every year and spend a ton of money on Dante Foreman every single year? It happens, and then he pays off. So I have zero concern for that. I can't believe I got him in the 17th round. And then Khalil Herbert, Keith, I completely agree with you. I do think that he is the best, running back in Chicago. And maybe he's not even in Chicago. Who knows? By the time the season starts, he's on a better team.
Be happy with that too. So
yeah. So anyway, I'm down with some Khalil. I am super overweight on my Khalil Herbert exposure right now. It's
I love that you got Kate Otten over here. I think he's one of the most underrated tight ends in the league. He's Mr. Slow and Steady. He's going to just keep getting pelted with targets. He's super underrated. And then Khalil Herbert, I like you guys said, I'm just going to echo that thought that I don't think Khalil Herbert's going to either he doesn't start the season on the Bears, he goes to the Cowboys or some other team, or in case of an injury, they're looking to deal him off because this is the last year of his contract. So he's going to be gone somewhere, especially by trade deadline. He'll be on another team. So if you can hold him If he's not traded by then, he's going to go somewhere. And we already talked about the Foreman situation. He just goes places and produces. He's got a pretty good opportunity this year too, but he'll have a lot of touches. I love this. Like starting with Kate, just to backtrack a little bit, the Marshawn Lloyd is going to get a ton of work. Also, that's I'm going to say like a 60-40 situation. And then Rico Dottle is somebody that for a best ball team, this is like the Mr. Underrated roster right now. So I love this build.
Those are my favorite, the underrated running backs. Like I love those guys because I hate taking running back. I'm a lot like Kevin. Like I have to take it because you got to play them, but I don't like doing it. So, but I want to talk about Cade Otton for a second because he is one of my favorite late round tight ends to go grab because of what you said, John. I mean, he's on the field all the time. So when I got Godwin there and I kind of started focusing on like, all right, who are my backup QBs that I can go after? And then I thought I could get Baker. And then I looked and I was like, hey, wait a minute. My 2 top tight ends have the same bye week. Whoops. So I was like, crap, now I definitely for sure am going to have to get another one, which I was going to anyway, but that made it more of a priority. And I thought, you know what? I've got Godwin. I'm looking at Baker. Why don't I just go get Cade Otton and make it a deal? So you see around 13 where Henry, Likely, Chig, Sennett go off the board. And I literally was just like
you say Kevin Tompkins' name and like fucking Beetlejuice, he just arrives, man. What the fuck?
Say his name and he appears.
I didn't see it 3 times though, so
no, you don't have to. That's the great thing about Kevin. Just one. He showed up in my room late at night, Stacy. It's freaked me out. So
that sounds like a personal problem, Keith. Maybe
I didn't think it was a problem. Look at Kevin. He's a sexy dude. I was happy to see him. Probably my wife was even more excited. So hello.
Look, I'm just here for the Mutual Admiration Society on Stacy's team here.
Wow. Is it because I've got Marshawn Lloyd? Do you love the Marshawn Lloyd?
Because you didn't take Sam Laporta with your first pick. We're all just very proud. You're growing right before our eyes.
I did.
I mean, in this format, it's completely defensible. Like, I can't really say anything about Sam Laporta. And I'm not going to totally just throw top
I would rather
rows
have
under the
Ingram,
bus.
though, right? Like in the 3rd round. Like, I would much rather have Ingram in the 3rd round.
I did. Yeah, I got
4th in targets last year, not among tight ends. Everybody. And they lost Calvin Ridley. They lost Zay Jones. So, I mean, I think Ingram's become the most, undervalued tight end by far, especially in these, what do you call them? Like super tight end leagues where you're getting extra points per reception.
Let's talk about super underrated. Kevin, let's talk about that Expos hat. That's absolutely awesome. Ooh. Thank you very much for wearing that tonight.
Absolutely. Hey, look, I gotta rep the Montreal Expos anytime I can. But I mean, you're pretty with the Ingram thing. You're pretty safe with that because we figure Jacksonville's going to be a pretty condensed offense as far as targets go with Christian Kirk with Ingram, and then you probably throw Brian Thomas in there too. But yeah, like I have no problems. I've seen rooms where tight ends get more spread out. It's really a kind of wild west as far as those tight ends go. And maybe Todd kind of in the 112 took that to the extreme because you really, really set yourself up for being at the mercy of everybody else when you go Laporta McBride to start out. And I told Stacy this, after her draft where, it's one thing to do that and then to see what comes back to you. You're having to play catch up at multiple positions. So that's where, and then to kind of compound that, Malik Neighbors in the 3rd, where I probably would have gone a little bit safer with that. Maybe taking a deep. I would have taken it. I would have taken a Debo. I would have rather taken a Debo or maybe even a Mike Evans there. I don't mind the Moore thing either, but I'm kind of getting a little scared off about the Bears because of Shane Steichen and how much he mismanaged the Seahawks last year. I'm still taking a Dunze at cost, but I don't want to slam everybody else. Look, I like Stacy's team. Monroe St. Brown I have no problem with. Kincaid and Ingram is a pretty good tight end pairing there. And then, Mixon is your one as far as the running backs go. I'll never say any bad words about Marshawn Lloyd on these or any airwaves. And then, the wide receivers, it's a good group there with Godwin, Hopkins, Devonta Smith, Roma Dunze, we just talked about there. But it's a really strong squad. And getting Cade Otton, who you were talking about just before I hopped on, who is as much of a lock as for 90% routes as any tight end. The fact you're getting him in the 13th round.
He's the new Tyler Higbee, in my opinion.
Can I tell you when I saw him today, and I posted a video that I got at camp today of Baker throwing a pass to K-Dot, and he ran like right by where I was sitting, and it was all I could do not to just like jump up and run over and hug him. Like,
you should have told him that you drafted him. You should have told him you drafted him. What's the deal with the running backs here? Like what is the point? Because I'm just confused with some of these guys that started with like 4 running backs, 3 running backs. I mean, that would make Kevin's head explode.
That is your bat signal that you're in FFPC.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's so different. That's a big difference between FFPC and drafting like on an underdog right now, is that you're going to get Bijan going early, Brees going early, which benefited me because I got St. Brown a little bit later.
But what is the point scoring for backs?
Oh, it's just like it's not, you don't get any bonus points.
It's normal, but you can start up to 4 with 2 flexes.
Exactly. So it's got the 2 flexes. So you could potentially start all 4 of those guys from team 3. Although I think
those pros or Joes that did that.
They're both Joes. Both
Okay.
of
The Joes are the
odd.
The Joes are the odd numbered draft slots, and the pros are the even.
Let's kind of wrap this up in a little bit because I want to get back to Stacy, your thought process here. You know, you mentioned you're super excited to be asked to be a pro in this event. At what point in the draft, and looking at the draft board, did you go from saying, wow, I'm in here with all these, you know, heralded minds in the fantasy space, to going, these fuckers are here with me?
I don't know that I've even said that yet, Jorge, but after the draft though, I said, and I was like, you know, I definitely got sniped several times here and there, but I felt good about it because I didn't feel like it threw me off. I didn't feel like it, you know, ruined my team or anything like that. Or, you know, I probably could have gone one more quarterback. Towards the end there, it kind of, you know, ended up with Khalif Raymond and Dylan Lobb. I probably could have I had McCarthy there. I thought about Jameis, you know, but I think it just, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and grab one more, you know, running back. Just, you never know with those positions, and guys get hurt and everything. So I kind of made that decision. So that would be the only thing I would think I would do a little bit differently here, is maybe add one more quarterback towards the bottom part. But I was trying to do like a late round, you know, Patriot stack here, but, you know, Pete over here sniped me on Drake May. Pop Douglas was already gone. Then Jalen Polt goes. I thought about, all right, well, maybe I can do a Mims Bo Nix. No, I get sniped there. And so, like I was talking about earlier, like these are the rounds, like, you know, 14 down is where everybody, like, I felt like just was like, you know, we all had the same idea, all the same thought process and who we were going after there. So that was like the toughest part of the draft for me was actually the bottom part.
Who's the bottom of the board? I can't see the bottom of the board because the windows are in the way.
Oh, can we move over to the side?
There we go. Okay, I see now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yes, we can.
Got Dylan. I just put a tweet out today that said Dylan Lobb is my number 1 rostered player out of all my rookies this year because of his receiving ability. Yeah. He may be. I mean, is there a world where you could see him getting somewhere around there between 40 and 50 targets without a problem on this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for that. And I don't care for Alexander Madison at all. So
no, not at all.
What?
I don't think
that's hot take, Stacy.
Anybody on this planet doesn't care about Alexander Madison.
Alexander Madison. No, can't do it. I just like saying his name. That's fun. But
just to point this out, by me saying these fuckers, I meant that as a term of endearment. So Sigmund Bloom and everybody else who I call the fucker, I meant that must have been way awesome. Before we get out of here, Jerry Bagshaw, thank you for still tuning in. He has a question for you. Pros versus Joes, how do you get into that? And maybe he missed a little bit of the show earlier on.
Yeah. So Jerry, you get into, if you want to become a Joe, you've got to go and sign up. So next year, sign up for some FFPC main events. You know, get those signed up for early because, like I said, we dropped this obviously in July. So if you want to play in it, you've got to get signed up for that. All the Joes go into a lottery, and then they're chosen that way. And then the more teams you have, from what I understand, the more teams you have, the more like picks you've got potentially. So more opportunity to get chosen.
Very
or
nice.
You can start doing fantasy content and you know, get picked as a pro.
Boom! There you go.
There you go.
So Stacy, thank you very much for coming on the show. I know you got the draft show. In fact, you know, 3 out of the people here on screen are going to be on the draft show. You're doing a we got Tootsie Pop 6. We got Rachel joining us. Love it when she's on here with the Fantasy and Frames crew. Can you tell the people what kind of draft you all are doing in a few minutes?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing an underdog eliminator. None of us have done a draft like that yet, so we're all going to be popping our cherries on the eliminators later tonight. So that should be a good time there.
I'll bring the loop.
Yeah.
We are not past the 3 o'clock hour yet, Keith Fleming. All right.
I get in trouble for saying horny for Lad McConkey, and then she drops that one. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
Yeah,
I think Ethan gets a shirt that says horny for Lad McConkey.
I'd wear it every day. I'd wear it to bed.
By the end of the night.
Yep. That's so not only, folks, are you getting awesome fantasy football content, you're getting this cast of characters, which you can't find anywhere else here. So Stacy, thank you very much. For someone like me, I don't have experience in this and not a lot with the FFPC. So to kind of get your perspective, from that is, and to hear all the years you've been playing high stakes, and I think this really informed a lot of the viewers out here and listeners out here, just like what is available in the different ways you could play fantasy, and yeah. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks everybody for coming on the show. Really appreciate you all doing that. So like we said, we have the draft show next. Tootsie Pop 6, aka Rachel, who is a fantastic member of the fantasy football community here.
Fantastic human being, just want to add as well, which is
exactly
even more important.
Yes.
That's right. And then, of course, next week we're going to be finishing up here on Fantasy Football Weekly, our Fantasy Football 101 series that we started last week. So let's look forward to that. And, so, for everybody here, for Kevin, for Keith, for John, I'm glad nothing exploded in the background, so you could stay here the entire show.
I was thinking the same thing.
And then Stacy Perez, I'm Jorge Edwards. We'll catch you next time.